My next guest is Anne from Malden Access Television, and she's the one who motivated me to do this show in the beginning when I went to MATV. It took her 7 years to come to my show.
I've been meaning to come on your show for a long time, but I got 2 little kids and life gets so busy, but it's
anyway,
fun to
thank you very much for coming in.
Hi, my name's Ann Durso Rose. I live in Malden and I work at Malden Access Television. And this is the first time appearing on Sal's cooking show, Ashiana Style Cooking. What I'm going to do today is make Indian lentil vegetable soup, which is a soup that I make often. It's actually an award-winning soup. It won 3rd place a few years ago in Vegetarian Times magazine. It was a national soup contest. And I like this soup because it's fairly easy to make. It's with ingredients that you almost always have on hand, and it's healthy, and people seem to like it. So we're going to start out. The ingredients are basically red lentils, which are these salmon colored lentils, is the main ingredient. And then we add potatoes and carrots and onion, and some spices, and some canned tomato. Those are the basic ingredients. So I'm going to start out with washing the lentils, because you always have to wash these kind of lentils. And for this recipe, I'm going to, which makes a fairly big pot of soup, I'm going to use 2 cups of red lentils. So to rinse the lentils, I just put them in a strainer. You have to make sure that the strainer has very small holes, because they'll fall right through otherwise. But I just keep running the water through them and, you know, making sure that they're good and rinsed. So I'm going to add the lentils to a pot, and we're going to put in 8 cups of water. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on the stove, and it's going to cook for a while while I chop up the potatoes and carrots, because those can be added a little later. You're going to cook the lentils on the stove for about 20 minutes before you add the vegetables. And if you haven't cooked lentils too much, what happens with them is they'll form foam on the top as they're cooking. And you just take a spoon every once in a while and skim off the foam. And you just want to be careful if you have a lid on. It happens to me almost every time. They'll boil over. So just, you know, watch them. And you just want to cook them gently, sort of on medium heat. So after about 20 minutes, you're going to add your chopped carrots and chopped potatoes. I would say about 4 cups combined of some combination of carrots and potatoes. You want to just dice them. As I said, I like this recipe because every ingredient is something that you can have for a long time in your fridge. Carrots, potatoes, onions, canned tomatoes, and lentils are all things that keep really well. So it's not something that you have to go out and buy when you want to make this soup. Oftentimes you have these things on hand. So we're going to add about 4 cups of the chopped vegetables as soon as the lentils have had a chance to soften a little bit. Then as those are cooking, you can start another pot, and that's where we're going to put the final soup in. For that, we're going to add some chopped onion and some garlic in 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And we're going to cook those up for a while, and then we're going to add the spices. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one thing we need to add to the lentils as they're cooking, and that's turmeric. Turmeric is mostly used for coloring. It gives it a nice golden color. I think it has a little flavor too, but it's just a half a tablespoon, so I'm going to add that to the lentils now as they're cooking. So we'll have the lentils, the turmeric, the potatoes and carrots, and towards the end I add a couple of teaspoons of salt to that mixture. Then, as I said, in a separate pot we're going to cook up the onions and the garlic in the vegetable oil, and when those are nice and soft, I'll add cumin and coriander, which are 2 spices that are used often in Indian cooking. And the thing about these spices is that you don't want to add them to a big pot of soup. You always want to cook them in oil first. You fry them up for 30 seconds or a minute or so, and then you add all your other ingredients. So I cook the onion and garlic, and then I'll add the cumin and coriander, fry them up for a little while, and then we'll add the rest of the soup, the potatoes, the lentils, and all of that. And finally, I'll add a can, a big can, 35 ounces can of peeled tomatoes, and I'll just chop them up and add them, juice and all, into the soup. In a larger pot, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of just plain old vegetable oil. I'm adding the turmeric to the lentils, and one thing you need to know about turmeric is that it will stain any of your clothes or anything that it can absorb. So you got to be really careful with it, even after it's cooked. You don't want to stain, especially your clothing, with it. So I'm going to add about 2 cloves of crushed garlic and 1 large onion, chopped up. Stir that around till the onions are translucent and they're nice and soft. It's been about 20 minutes. So I'm going to add my vegetables, my potatoes and carrots, stir those in, and then you basically want to just gently boil it until the potatoes and carrots are nice and soft. And I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt to the lentils. So our onions are translucent now. I'm going to add the cumin and the coriander. And I'm going to add a good 3 teaspoons of cumin. And then a couple of teaspoons of coriander. This is, coriander is, actually this is ground coriander. It comes from cilantro. It's the seed of cilantro. It's just another name for coriander. All right, and we're just going to mix that in and let the spices fry up. And you can, oh, they smell really great right now. Just going to let that cook for a minute or so. And then we're going to add our tomatoes and the soup mixture, the lentil, potatoes, and carrots. I forgot about one other spice that I add, and that's cayenne pepper. And that gives it its spice. I like spicy food. Everybody has a different threshold for it. The cayenne that I have is very, very hot, so I only use 1/8 of a teaspoon in this soup, and that usually is plenty hot. But if you have less strong cayenne pepper, you want to use more or less, whatever you like. So I'm going to add the cayenne now and let it cook in. Alright, so my spices have cooked in a little there, and now I'm going to take my tomatoes, and I just usually just chop them right into the pan. Pretty small in there. And I don't know, lately I found I had some favorite brands of canned tomatoes, and then they stopped being good. I don't know, I noticed that then for maybe a year, a certain brand, I won't like it anymore. Usually I'll double the recipe than what I'm making right now when I make this soup. I'll make a big pot of it because it freezes really well. So you can freeze the soup. So I've transferred the lentil soup mixture into the onions and tomatoes. And now I'm just stirring it together. And really all now it just needs is some simmering. You can simmer it an hour or more or whatever you like. And if you like it thinner, you could just put the cover on. If you like a thicker soup, you can keep it off and it will thicken up. Just going to grate in some black pepper. So the soup is simmering now. I'm just going to let it simmer for at least a half an hour. Dish it into this bowl so you can see what it looks like. And if you like, you can garnish it with a little bit of cilantro. Put a little in there.
look at the soup. Wow. You didn't put any, doesn't look like oily or anything, you know?
No, no, it just has a little bit of oil in it. It doesn't
like
have much.
Itself, it's like a whole meal, huh?
I think it would probably be considered low fat.
Thank you very much for coming in. And hope
Great
to
to be
see you
here
again sometime.
I'm sure you will, Sal.